A lot of people are still working hard. They show up. They stay productive. They earn more than they used to. They keep trying to move forward. And yet something feels wrong. Work still takes energy, still takes time, still takes discipline, but it no longer feels like it turns into security the way it once did. That is the shift. It is not that work stopped mattering. It is that work feels less rewarding because the connection between effort and stability has weakened. You can still work hard, but the payoff feels thinner. And for a growing number of people, that is no longer just a feeling. It is how the modern economy actually works. People often explain this in personal terms. People became entitled. People expect too much too quickly. People compare themselves too much online. People are less disciplined than before. That explanation is appealing because it makes the problem feel moral, but it does not explain the scale of the pattern. Because if work only felt less rewarding because people changed, the frustration would look random. It doesn't. It appears across industries, income levels, and age groups. People work, but housing is still difficult. They work, but savings still feel thin. They work, but debt lasts longer. They work, but big life milestones feel delayed. That is not only attitude, that is structural disappointment. For a long time, there was a fairly clear social equation: work, income, stability, forward movement. That did not mean life was easy, but the direction often felt clearer. You worked, and over time the work supported housing, family formation, savings, mobility, and a growing sense of security. That conversion mattered, because work does not feel rewarding only when pay arrives. It feels rewarding when pay changes your position, when it builds options, when it creates breathing room, when it makes the future feel more stable than the present. That conversion is weaker now. Work still creates income, but income often does less to improve long-term position than people expect. And that is where the emotional break begins. One reason work feels less rewarding is that the cost of ordinary life rose faster than wages in too many critical areas. Housing rose, healthcare rose, education rose, insurance rose, childcare rose, debt service rose, basic services became more expensive, and many forms of convenience turned into recurring monthly costs. That means even when wages go up, the gain often gets absorbed quickly. People feel this directly. They see higher pay, but they do not feel proportionally more secure, because work is being asked to fund a more expensive baseline than it used to. And when the baseline rises faster than the reward, effort starts feeling thinner. Work also feels less rewarding because the economy increasingly rewards ownership more than labor. That changes what effort can actually build. If homes rise faster than incomes, then work alone struggles to reach ownership. If stocks rise faster than savings, then people living mostly from wages remain further from the assets that compound. If ownership becomes the real engine of long-term stability, but ownership becomes harder to access, then work feels less like a path and more like maintenance. That is a major shift. Because work once did two things at once: it funded life, and it moved people toward ownership. Now for many people, it mainly funds life, and even that feels harder than before. Another reason work feels less rewarding is that debt expanded to preserve normal life. Student loans, mortgages, car payments, credit cards, buy now pay later, and longer repayment cycles allowed households to keep participating in a more expensive economy. That kept consumption looking normal, but it changed the emotional experience of earning. Because when more of your income is already claimed, a raise does not feel like freedom. It feels like relief, temporary relief, something absorbed by higher bills, higher minimums, or rising costs elsewhere. That matters, because work feels rewarding when it creates margin. Debt reduces margin, and when debt becomes a permanent layer underneath ordinary life, the payoff from effort becomes harder to feel. This is another hidden shift. A lot of the insecurity once absorbed by institutions is now absorbed more directly by workers and households. Pensions weakened, benefits became less certain, healthcare costs became more exposed, retirement became more individualized, employment became more fragile in many industries, insurance became more expensive and more conditional. That changes how work feels, because even if someone keeps earning, they may still feel like they are carrying more risk personally than workers in earlier generations did. And when more of life depends on your ability to manage volatility alone, work starts feeling less like progress and more like defense. You are still moving, but much of the movement is spent protecting what you already have. Technology made work faster, but it did not always make workers feel more rewarded. That is important. Productivity tools, automation, AI, platform systems, and digital workflows all increased output. But higher output does not automatically mean higher satisfaction. Sometimes it means fewer workers, more monitoring, faster expectations, thinner margins for error, and less time to feel ownership over the work itself. So work becomes more efficient, but not always more meaningful. People can produce more in less time while feeling less secure, less autonomous, and more replaceable. That creates a strange contradiction. The system becomes more productive, but the person inside it may feel less rewarded by participating in it. Our work often feels least rewarding not at the beginning, but in the middle, because that is when financial responsibilities stack. Housing, children, healthcare, transport, insurance, schooling, debt, aging parents, retirement saving, emergency costs. This is where income is supposed to carry the most, but it is also where life extracts the most from it. That makes the middle years feel compressed. A person may be at peak earning age and still feel persistently stretched. That is psychologically important, because if even peak working years do not create much margin, then the emotional promise of work starts to break. Inflation did not only raise prices, it changed how work feels. A raise that once felt meaningful can now feel immediately absorbed. A salary increase looks better on paper than it feels in real life. That weakens the emotional link between effort and reward. It creates a sense that the system is always moving the finish line. You work harder, but everyday life becomes more expensive. You earn more, but the gain disappears into the baseline. That is why inflation damages morale even when it does not produce dramatic collapse. It quietly erodes the sense that effort improves position, and that sense is central to how people experience work. None of this means work is meaningless. Work still matters enormously. It still funds daily life. It still provides structure. It still supports families. It still builds skill. It still creates value, but it functions differently now. It is less reliable as a ladder, less powerful as a stabilizer, less effective as a bridge into ownership, less emotionally convincing as a guarantee of progress. That is the deeper problem. People are not only tired from working, they are tired from working in a system where effort no longer converts into security as smoothly as it once did. When work feels less rewarding, the effects spread beyond wages. People delay family decisions, delay home ownership, delay risk-taking, delay switching careers, delay having children, delay retirement planning, delay belief in institutions. That matters because economies do not only run on money, they run on confidence. Confidence that work leads somewhere, confidence that effort compounds, confidence that stability is still attainable. When that confidence weakens, economic behavior changes. And once enough people stop believing that work will move them forward, the social contract underneath the economy starts to thin out. Work feels less rewarding than it used to because too many of the systems around work became more extractive. Housing extracts more, debt extracts more, insurance extracts more, healthcare extracts more, inflation extracts more, subscriptions extract more, and ownership remains harder to reach. That means work is no longer competing only with ordinary living costs. It is competing with an economy full of recurring claims on income. That is the deeper pattern. The issue is not that people stopped working. It is that work is being asked to carry too much while building too little. Work still takes your time. It still takes your energy. It still takes your attention. It still shapes your life. But it no longer feels as rewarding as it once did because the systems surrounding work changed faster than wages did. The result is a world where people can still be productive, still be responsible, still do everything they were told to do, and still feel like progress keeps thinning out. That is not laziness. That is a signal that work is no longer converting into stability as effectively as it once did. And until that changes, work will keep feeling less like a path upward and more like a balancing act.